politics, news, sport, and much, much more. It's Rob McLOUGHLIN live and exclusive to CityTalk 105.9.
Rob McLOUGHLIN on CityTalk 105.9.
In a few minutes, we're going to be taking an unusual taxi ride with the Shadow Chancellor George Osborne. Politicians always want to take you for a ride. This one literally does. And we'll be talking exclusively, or you can hear a full exclusive interview with David Cameron just after 8 o'clock. And at 8:15 this morning, I'm going to be joined live in the studio by the Health Minister, Ivan Lewis.
This is Rob McLOUGHLIN.
David Cameron, welcome to the programme. Let's first of all begin with one of the critical issues here in the Northwest, which of course is crime. It is, as you know, 6 months since the death of Rhys Jones, and we've had the tragic incident, the tragic death of Gary Newlove, of course, in Warrington. Does the Conservative Party have any answers to this crime wave?
Yes, absolutely. The first is to recognise that we are dealing with quite wide-scale social breakdown, and we've got to recognise the scale of the problem. And we say, well, look, we can fix this. Actually, if we do back families rather than undermine them, we can actually have a benefit system and a tax system that pays people to stay together rather than to separate. You know, we can get our police out of the police stations and onto the streets. It means tearing up the forms and getting rid of the political correctness, but it can be done. And we can have discipline in our schools, so we don't actually bring up another generation of young people who don't have any idea of discipline and decent values. That can be provided in our schools.
Is it just that? Because, of course, we've seen Helen Newlove, who has called, very, very heavily criticised the sentencing. She's called for the return of the death penalty. We've heard it again from the victims of Stephen Wright in Suffolk. Would you, if you were Prime Minister, would you sanction a vote in the House of Commons on the death penalty?
Look, I don't support the death penalty. The House of Commons does vote on it from time to time. I don't believe it will return. And I think the reason why is the danger of putting to death someone who's innocent.
I'm joined live in the studio by the Health Minister, Ivan Lewis. You've heard what David Cameron said. The NHS is his top priority. You have put a lot of money into it, but let's face it, there have been improvements and everybody recognises that. But in consideration of how much money has gone in, you probably haven't got, if you put your hand on your heart, the improvements that you really wanted as a government, have you?
By the end of 2008...
Was that a yes?
I think the yes is that the progress we've made in terms of rebuilding the foundations of a health service, which was an absolute shambles 10 years ago, that progress has been massive.
Rob McLOUGHLIn.
William Hague, let's begin by looking at how you see Britain's role in the world. We have just been through a period where Tony Blair has committed us to more wars, more conflicts than any Prime Minister since World War II. Do you think that Britain's role is that way, that we should be an international peacekeeper?
Well, certainly Britain should have a very active foreign policy, and we have to learn the lessons of some of those interventions that Tony Blair made, but we ought to remind ourselves too that many of them were justified.
Rob McLOUGHLIn on CityTalk 105.9.
Sunday morning radio, of course. You're listening to CityTalk 105.9, and that must be the most famous theme tune on British television. The man sitting opposite me, you can't remember how many times you've heard that, can you?
Oh, no, but every time I do I get nervous, because originally it was live, and we used to hear that theme music coming up and my nerves would start, and there's still a little residual. But mind you, we don't hear it in the studio now. We just knock it off scene by scene, and then it's all put together. They don't play the theme tune.
And as if I have to say it, the voice that you've just heard, of course, is the one and only William Roache. Ken Barlow, 48 years in Coronation Street this December, Bill.
Yes, that's right, 2 years to the 50. Amazing, isn't it?
Rob McLOUGHLIn on CityTalk 105.9.
Diane Youdale, Gladiator jet. Now, we were talking just before the news about how you got into it. Once you got into Gladiators and it became a big show, what happened to your life?
Gosh, well, of course it changed, I guess. I resisted it, and the baseball cap came out, and I was doing the whole kind of not wanting to be followed by people who'd spotted you in the supermarket.
And you came up with the idea of calling you Jet, naming you after a petrol station.
That was Nasty Nigel, thank you, exactly. I was sponsorship. That was Nigel Lithgow, and I don't know why.
Nasty Nigel from Popstars.
That's absolutely right, and he called me Jet. I think it's because I was very sort of nimble and quick at doing the original tryouts.
This is Rob McLOUGHLIN.
I'm delighted to say we're joined live in the studio by one of the most senior churchmen in the country. He is only the 8th Roman Catholic Archbishop of Liverpool and only the 2nd to emerge from the north. He was born in Morecambe in Lancashire in 1938. His father, originally from Donegal in Ireland, was the local dentist. He was ordained in Rome in 1962, became Bishop of Salford in 1984, and then he succeeded Derek Warlock as Archbishop in July 1996. Today, his pastoral duties extend across the north of England, and he is a regular visitor to the Middle East in his national role with the Catholic Bishops' Conference. He is, of course, His Grace the Most Reverend Patrick Kelly, who joins us this morning.
Good morning.
Now, that's a heck of an introduction.
Terrible. Scary.
Yes. You've got to answer all those questions.
Exactly. Very well.
Now, I remember once talking to your predecessor, Derek Warlock, and he said to me, because I always get confused what you should call an archbishop. You said a moment ago when I greeted you outside, you said, call me your majesty, whether it's your grace, your majesty, whatever. But Derek Warlock once said to me that actually the highest compliment you can pay an ordained man is to say father.
Exactly. I've always said that. From then it's downhill, because in a way it's an enormous challenge and a very demanding one.
And your name is?
Andy Burnham.
And your occupation?
Member of Parliament.
And your 10 questions on the subject of Everton Football Club begin now. What is the capacity of Goodison Park to the nearest 1,000?
40,000.
Correct. By what name was EFC originally known?
St Domingos.
Correct. Who are Everton's next UEFA Cup opponents?
SK Brann.
3 out of 3 so far. Who scored the winning goal against Manchester United in the 1995 FA Cup final?
Paul Rideout.
Correct. 4 out of 4. In which season did Dixie Dean score a record 60 goals?
Was it 27-28?
Absolutely correct. 5 out of 5. Well done. How much is a cup of tea at Goodison Park?
I was about to say too much, but I don't want Mr. Keith Weiner to ring me up today. About £1.60.
Oh, absolutely correct. Well done. Who is the youngest ever Premiership goal scorer at Goodison?
James Vaughan.
Absolutely, age 16 years, 271 days, and who preceded Wayne Rooney. What is Mikel Arteta's shirt number?
6.
Correct. Who is David Moyes' assistant manager?
Has he appointed one? I think, is it Andy Holden? I don't know whether he's actually appointed one yet.
He hasn't appointed one, so there is a vacancy, Andy. That could be your next dream job. And finally, can you name and sing the tune that Everton run out to on match days?
Oh, I hope you're going to play it for us now on CityTalk, aren't you? Isn't that the prize for getting all these questions right? It's of course Zed Cars, and...
it had a name before Zed Cars.
Oh, Johnny Todd.
Johnny Todd, the Liverpool sea shanty. Andy Burnham, you were asked 10 questions. I'm delighted to say live on the radio, you've got all 10 correct. Give him a big round of applause.
Waking you up on Sunday. Rob McLOUGHLIN, City Talk 105.9.